Shelly, you started out. You're the one that always does the intro.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Homestead HQ, where we talk about homesteading and preparedness. This is Shelly, and I'm here with
I'm Jason, and we've got William, the permaculture consultant, with us, and he's going to be talking about what he's got going on with his business, the festival, and all that. Real quick, we'll get through kind of the business stuff. Guys, one of our affiliates and our awesome, probably my favorite affiliate that I use the most is VacMaster. They make chamber sealers, custom. They make butchering knives, kitchen knives, all kinds of stuff. I literally use these knives almost every day in the kitchen. So the website is vacmasterfresh.com. Use the coupon code Homestead, and you'll get 15% off your order, your whole order on that. So it'll save you some money and help us out a little bit. Our other major sponsor that helps bring you the podcast is Signature Solar. It's signaturesolar.com. Use the code Homestead, and that'll save you some money. And also, Signature Solar is going to have a booth at our festival, and they'll have guys that you can talk to if you're wanting to build a system. There will be guys there. You can say, hey, this is what I want to run on my homestead or my house when the grid goes down, and they can set you up with exactly what you need. But go visit their website, signaturesolar.com, and use the code Homestead. And now, William, welcome.
Hold on a minute. I got a shout out.
Okay.
So happy birthday to Lawrence. Lawrence is one of our KSL members, and him and Casey are some good friends of ours, and we just want to wish him a happy birthday. Hey,
happy
Lawrence.
Birthday, Lawrence.
Happy birthday, Lawrence.
So now, is there anything other shout out, Shelly?
What's up? That's all I got.
All right. Can I go now?
Yes.
We've got William, the permaculture consultant, on tonight. William, thanks for coming on the podcast with us. We're happy to have you. Kind of tell everybody, anybody that doesn't know what you're doing, kind of give them your background, how you can call yourself the permaculture consultant.
Sounds good. Thank you guys so much for having me, both Shelly and Jason. So my YouTube channel is named The Permaculture Consultant. My name is actually William. But the reason I feel like I can call myself the Permaculture Consultant is because, my goal is to become that name, basically, like the Permaculture Consultant. My goal is to have designed in every climate, basically following the footsteps of Jeff Lawton, which is one of my mentors, and he designed in every single country in the world, actually. He's been to every place, every location. If you bring up any problem to you, he's got answers like that. But that's my end goal, is to become the permaculture consultant. Maybe to dethrone Jeff Lawton to a certain extent. But my beginning in this, I grew up in the preparedness movement at first. And then as you start preparing and putting back food and stuff like that, you naturally think of resupply. So then my parents started getting into homesteading, and then you start thinking about, resupply for your animals, which led us into permaculture. So I kind of grew up in that entire environment. Got out of high school, became a residential electrician at first, picked up some skills there. And then later on, I ended up going out to the Earthship Biotecture and the Earthship Biotecture, and doing the academy and the internship. Which was an awesome experience. Before that, I should say I got my first PDC from a guy named Nicholas Bertner down at the School of Permaculture in Dallas. That was my first PDC. After Earthship Biotecture, I ended up getting sent out to Australia to study under Jeff Lawton, and that's where I received my second PDC. That man is just a genius. Like I said before, any information you bring up to him or any problem you bring up to him, he instantly has an answer. After that, I've done the Polyphasic Intensive Discovery Seminar with Joel Salatin up there. I've done Dr. Elaine Ingham's Soil Food Web courses and all that type of stuff. I've just been focusing mostly on education of permaculture and designing on as many homesteads and farms, east-facing patios, 2-acre backyards, all that type of stuff. I focus on trying to get as diverse of a background as possible. And now I've started my own YouTube channel. Started a YouTube channel about 5 years ago with my parents called Permapastures Farm. And now I'm doing my own thing. And I'm focusing on just providing, solutions for a lot of common homestead problems or farm problems or permaculture problems. I do a segment called Permaculture Q&A where people send me their questions and I try to answer them in video as best as I can. But right now I'm building a permaculture demonstration site here in East Texas. As soon as it's finished, people will be able to come out there, stay, practice, learn, all that type of stuff. It'll be a place where they can actually live on the farm and consume food from the farm or locally sourced food as best as possible. At this festival, I'll be teaching homestead, like permaculture homestead design, and also we'll be building compost. So compost, a lot of people overlook and think it's not very important, but it is the most important thing you can do on your farm. It can literally solve every problem you have on your farm. If you have sick animals, compost can fix that. If you have pest issues, compost can fix that. If you have over compaction, compost can fix that. If you have pools of water on your property, compost can fix that. If you don't have enough water on your property, compost can fix that. Compost can literally fix every issue on your property, but it's something a lot of people overlook because they just view it as like a planting or growing medium. But if you come to the festival, we'll break it down for you. We'll show you how to use it, how to make it. We'll show you, like Jason was saying earlier, we'll show you like how to actually build a pile, the ingredients that go into it. And it's ingredients that every homestead, every farm is going to have. And then we'll have like a week-old pile that's already been built. So you can see kind of the in-between stage. And then we'll have a old pile that I'll bring from the house and it'll be completely finished compost. And I'll bring like some soil, what's it called? Some SMAP examples, which is basically like a sheet of paper that shows you the biological difference between like finished compost, denuded soil, average soil, soil that's like meant for the garden, soil that's meant for your food forest, stuff like that, which you can control all of it through compost. So yeah, sorry I just word vomited on everybody.
It's fine. You can vomit on. I tell you honestly, what we spent an hour, 2 hours when you were here at the last festival, that Monday after the festival, hanging out at the house. I mean, yep. You kind of word vomited on me when we were walking around, but I'm like, cool. I was like, I learned so much in that 2 hours. I'm like, okay, because I pretty much told you, I'm like, don't sugarcoat it. I was like, tell me if there's something I'm really screwing up on because I want to know. Yeah. But we walked around, you're like, you're doing pretty much everything. The only thing you said is you probably got a couple too many animals. And I was like, yeah. I know that. I'm trying to remedy that situation. And after that, it's pretty much, remedied almost. It'll be remedied next week. But yeah, it was amazing. The stuff that you could tell me just in 2 hours on all that.
I mean, what made it really easy is that you had proper design. Like you did everything. Like I said, the only really issue that you had was like too many animals, your stocking density, which can create compaction and then create weeds, which you can fix with compost. But other than that, man, you had proper design, you had proper locations of systems. Nothing was so far away that it made you it discouraged you from actually going to your property, or going and visiting that system, which we'll discuss in that homestead design class. Like proper zoning of your farm can save a lot of time and a lot of effort. Like if you're having to go, for example, if you're having to go all the way to zone 5, which should be considered wilderness, if you're having to go all the way out there just to maintain your garden, something that needs to be visited at least once a day, maybe sometimes twice a day, you're going to quit gardening here pretty quickly. Or if you put your chickens out in zone 4 and they're not necessarily following ruminants, they're just out there because maybe the wife doesn't want to look at chickens, you're going to have some predation issues. You're going to have predator issues. Shelly gave me a look whenever I said the wife doesn't want to have chickens close by. Hey, I'm just talking about common problems that come up during these design consultations.
I don't have a problem having chickens by my house. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yep, because Shelly's a real homesteader.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Shelly.
So I wanted to just give you a plug as someone who has hired William to come to our property. When Randy and I bought our homestead in 2021, I guess it was, we didn't have any idea what we were doing. We bought 14 and a half acres. I knew I wanted to homestead. I knew I wanted to have animals. I knew I wanted to grow my own food and raise my own meat and process my own animals. I knew I wanted to do all of that. I had no idea where to start. And when we got out here on our property, I remember going into the backyard and I was so frustrated. It was like paralysis analysis or whatever, analysis paralysis backwards. But Randy came out there and he was like, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't have any idea. And I was just mad because we had just bought this farm and I didn't know where to begin. I found William. Actually, he had gone and visited another homestead on a YouTube homestead that I watched, and that's how I found him. And he was interviewing those other people, and just from the interview that he conducted, I was like, this dude sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So I went and found him through that link, and I found Permapasture's farm. And then I was watching one of the videos, and he said, he said, if you want to, you can do like a phone consultation or whatever, and you can contact me through Instagram. Well, I don't even use Instagram.
Neither do I anymore.
And so I sent him a message through Instagram and he responded. And so we got on the phone and we were talking about stuff because, and actually the question that I had, now that I think about it, it was so stupid. It was because I hadn't done my research, but I called him and I was like, okay, I've been using this little app on my phone to try to identify all these plants. And it's telling me that animals, it was like curly dock or something. And it was like, animals can't eat that. It's poisonous. Well, I mean, oh my gosh, you just seriously need to do your research when you're using these apps, because there's so much crap out there about everything. They say that comfrey is toxic and it's not. So I was asking him all these questions. And then finally I was like, you just need to come to our place. You need to come out here. So, and he did, and he showed up and y'all, seriously, he laid everything out for us. I am the kind of person that I need a plan. I like to check things off a list. I need to know this is what I need to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So when he showed up at our house, he said, before I get there, I need you to lay out what are your, what goals do you want to achieve in the first year? What goals do you want to achieve by year 3 and then by year 5 and, on and on. Mm-hmm. And I sat down with Randy and we laid all of that stuff out. He got to the house. We presented him with that. He did everything. He gave us maps. He laid out our zones. He said, put this here and think about your inputs. And this is why this needs to go here. And it's going to make it easier for you. Because Randy and I aren't young. And I told him, I said, this has got to be manageable for old people. So you got to work with me here. And he laid it out, y'all. You need, if you're like we were, and you're just clueless as to what you need to do and you need direction, you need to call this guy. Seriously. He will help you. He says that he wants to be the permaculture consultant. He is the permaculture consultant.
Oh man.
We would not be where we're at now had it not been for William 3 years ago. Seriously.
Thank you so much, Shelly. That means a lot. Okay. Here's one thing about Shelly is that every time she plugs your business or something, she gets better and better at it every single time. But yeah, really, I appreciate that, Shelly. And honestly, a consultation is only as good as the client that's receiving it.
You got to do stuff.
Exactly. And you guys have done it. You guys have taken that plan and you've ran with it. There are some, okay, it's changed since raising prices, I'll say that. But there were some people at the beginning that I would do consultations for, and they wouldn't follow the plan. But when everything failed, they would come back and blame me, as if it's my fault that you didn't follow the plan. There's a reason that there's a proper order of operations when it comes to permaculture. It's because you're going, especially if you've never done anything like this before. If you've never done anything like this before, I try to design the order of operations in a way where you're going to be building off skills. You're going to learn the chicken tractor on steroids, for example. You're going to learn how to make compost by itself. You're going to learn to raise chickens by themselves. Once you feel comfortable with both of those two, Then you can combine it and do the chicken tractor on steroids and have your
Exactly.
chickens make compost for you.
Yeah. Get those systems working together and integrated, and it just makes your life easier.
Yeah. And right now we have the benefit of actually using the system or the grid to facilitate that in-between stage when we're trying to learn. Like that's one thing that we still have the benefit of in 90% of the United States. There are certain countries, like, you got to make do with what's there.
Right.
And that's stuff that like Jeff Lawton is consulted for. And that's what I want to get into in the future, is like some of the aid projects. Because there's absolutely no reason that there is okay. All right. So let's get us kicked off YouTube. So there's absolutely no, I'm kidding. There's absolutely no reason that we should be depopulating the planet. We can fit everybody in the world in North America right now if designed properly, and everybody is thriving. That's how much food abundance there is in the world. There's no reason anybody should be hungry. You can grow food anywhere anybody wants to live in the world. It just requires proper design, requires dethroning of tyranny. And then
right, that's it. I mean, because if you control the food, you control the people, right?
Yeah. And like, if you just follow the 3 ethics of permaculture: earth care, like take care of where you live; people care, take care of yourself and the people around you; and then return the surplus to the first 2 ethics, we have only abundance. We have only abundance after that. So yeah, I'll get off my soapbox now. But
now one of the funny things before we get off Shelly plugging you and everything, 8 out of 10 times, and I've been to Shelly's house, I don't know how many times, but 8 out of 10 times that I'm at Shelly's house, she pulls all the stuff that you gave her and the map and everything. And she's like, well, let's look at this. And this is what William showed and this. And I've seen this thing. I've darn near memorized the whole thing. I've looked at it many times. And I'm like, Shelly, you don't have to pull it out anymore. I've seen it.
I use it all the time. Like,
Thank you so much.
It makes me feel good. I mean, seriously, it's like, when I get confused about something, or maybe I get my cart before the horse or whatever, I'll go back to that and be like, okay, what did William say? And I'll lay it out, and I might have to adjust a few things, but it's a plan that keeps me on track, and I just appreciate that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Shelly. That really is awesome. But like, you're an awesome client as well. Like, you're like the perfect client. Like, you're the one that needs a plan, and you like stick to the plan. You follow the plan. And like the zoning and stuff like that, it's super important. Making sure your garden's close, making sure some of your more delicate systems are close, make sure you're rotating animals, making sure that, you're following like nature. That's where permaculture is derived from, is just observations of nature.
And let me just say this too. When you came, the people that lived here before, so our property looks like a big triangle, and we've got a slope that goes down to a creek. And the people that lived here before us, way far, well, not way far, but pretty far away from the house, I would say it's like zone 3, only because I drive by it every day, but I don't go down and visit it. They had put fruit trees down there. And before William came to the house, because I'm like, they've already got some fruit trees down here, so I will just put more fruit trees down here and make like the little, food forest thing going on. And so I went down there and planted more fruit trees. And then William comes to the house, and he's like, that's kind of far away from your house. I don't know if you want it that far down there. And I'm like, I already planted them. So I went down there and planted. I planted comfrey around them, did guilds and all that kind of stuff. Guess what? They are not thriving. They're not dead, but they're not thriving. And I kind of go along with, like, I remember you and your dad put out a video about, that they're I can't think of the method, but it's like, you just let them go. They've got to survive on their own, huh?
Stun method.
Yes, that. And I'm like, oh, I can totally do that if I don't have to mess with stuff. I'm all about that, So I'm like, and so that just makes me sound smart. We're doing the stun method. So I don't have to go down there and mess with anything.
Your stun
method is just strategic, total, utter neglect.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, my comfrey that I've planted down there, doing great. It's growing like crazy. Yeah. And I actually went down there and planted some asparagus, but the trees, no, They are stunted. They are not growing. And I bought these trees from Stark Brothers. Those trees aren't cheap.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm thinking about it now, because at the time I was like, I already got them down there. So this one little instance, I'm not going to listen to William because they're already down there and I'm just going to work with that.
Yeah.
Well, I should have dug them up and brought them up to the house because it didn't work. And so now I'm like looking at this going, okay, where am I going to put my next food forest? Because I'm just going to have to leave them down there and do the stun method. I'm not going to do anything with it. I'll probably dig up some comfrey and bring it up to wherever I put the new ones. But it's, that one instance that I was just kind of being in rebellion and not listening to what you were saying. And I should have listened to what you said. So,
Hey, I mean, and that's like, a lot of people get caught up on mistakes like that. And I wouldn't even say that was a mistake necessarily as much as it is like, okay, turn the problem into a solution. You have super resilient trees over there. So
maybe one day they'll grow and I'll get some apples and pears, but they're not any taller than me and they've been there since 2021. So I don't know.
But you could take cuttings from them in the future. So that could be your scion stock, because everything like the trees that you planted over there are usually, most fruit trees are grafted at this point. What you could do is just take cuttings from scions there. You could, so yeah, if you take your cuttings from scions over there and then you order some root stock online, depending on what varieties you need, you have like a good scion tree over there and you're not really out any money. And in fact, you can make future trees for about $1.50, $2. So whatever the price of rootstock is.
So that sounds like a new skill that I need to learn because I don't even know what a scion is. So yeah,
so
you could be talking about Star Trek for all I know.
Flomaton Famous is going to show you.
There we go.
Oh yeah, he's going to be at the festival. Yep. So yeah, okay.
That guy makes it so simple. He is awesome. Like if anybody has any grafting questions or anything like that, go check out Flomaton Famous. And he's like, there's just a bunch of crap when it comes to grafting trees. And he makes it so simple. He makes it so easy. Just follow what he does.
He's going to be speaking at the festival, and then he's also going to have a table set up doing demonstrations. So
awesome.
I guess that's where I'll be spending part of my time.
Yeah. And if you do that, if you start grafting your own trees, you don't need to buy fruit trees anymore. Like if you have a couple rootstock trees, different varieties, that way, like you can do the M111 for apples typically. You can do like the OH something. It's like some numbers. I don't know. Scientists came up with these names. And that can take care of your stone fruits and stuff. And then you can start getting creative with it. You could put a bunch of different cultivars on the same doggone tree and have like one of those 5-in-1 trees, like where you have all your stone fruits here. You have like peaches, you have almonds, you have all these different varieties on this one tree. Yeah.
That's weird.
Awesome. Yeah. Have a whole fruit cocktail tree.
Well, it's actually called that. Some people call it the fruit cocktail tree. Yeah.
That's cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, and William, going back to what you're saying, when you're at my place, you're like, it's laid out good. I've not studied permaculture that much besides watching some videos and stuff. And it's not rocket science, is it? I mean,
no.
I just laid it out logical. So like I've got part of my food forest that runs down the driveway. And I mean, I drive up and down the driveway every day. So it's right there where I can see it. If there's something, I can stop the truck and walk essentially, 3 steps and you're in part of the food forest. So it's not, and it's logical. You want your chickens close to the house so the coyotes don't come in every night and eat everybody. So they're, I pretty much park my truck right in front of the chicken coop when I come in every day.
If tradesmen were to take up permaculture, it would completely then you'd have the revolution. Then you would have the true actual green revolution. If tradesmen were to take up permaculture instead of these purple breathing, blue haired, limp wristed Marchies, forget them. Okay, so here's a good barometer of whether or not you're listening to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about when it comes to permaculture. Ask them what the 3 ethics are. If they say purple hair care, Siri just randomly popped up on my computer for some reason. But if they say people care, earth care, or return the surplus to the first 2 ethics, they're good to go. If they say people care, earth care, and fair share, run. Go somewhere else. Because that is that's just a hijacking of what permaculture actually is. If you're doing, and
It's
it doesn't
them
make
trying to
sense.
take your stuff.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
the apples that I grow, what claim does my neighbor have on the apples that I grow? Nothing.
No.
None. Especially if it's not even a surplus of apples. I have to first take care of mine and my family's needs before I can start like giving away stuff. And that's not selfish. That just makes sense. Like if I give away my surplus, or if I give away my abundance before I've reached a point of surplus, now I'm in need.
Right.
And we're back to square one.
And
So
you
yeah,
should also be able to dictate who you give that to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to give it away, because you still need to meet your needs first. So if you need to sell that product first, do that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's another
Right.
thing that's like a big hindrance on like the homestead movement, the permaculture movement, and the agriculture, for like regenerative agriculture, is that a lot of people don't want to support other people in the same movement, or they say, oh, well, I can get that cheaper at Walmart or something like that. Like a lot of people have this and I'm not meaning to offend anybody, but a lot of people have like an intentionally broke mindset.
That's
Like,
a poverty mentality.
exactly, as if
Yeah.
there's some virtue in being in poverty, and there isn't. Like there's no reason. If you grow food, there's no reason you should have a poverty mindset. You grow the most valuable resource on the planet. Everybody needs food, and we can
Right.
all grow to a point where everybody has food.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and going back to the whole poverty deal, and that it's virtuous to be broke, and not making money on certain things. Like I've had people that I'm a contractor and a tradesman in my day job. Nobody has a problem if they call me and they're like, "Hey, how much is it to do this work at my house?" And I can give them a price all day, and they think it's fair. But then it's something to do with homesteading and preparedness. People are like, Why are you trying to make money off that?" It's like, what the heck? So,
yeah.
I mean, there's certain people that I've lost as people that talk to me because they're like, "Why are you trying to make money off your homestead?" I'm like, "What's the difference? Me pounding a nail or me, cutting some meat up for somebody?"
Exactly.
There's no difference.
No. Yeah. It's I mean, one of the more frustrating parts, but it's something that like there's enough people willing to support the community. Like, okay, Shelly, soap, for example. Your soap costs more than Irish Spring, but I know your soap is way higher quality. It's not poisoning me. It's not going to leave my skin dry and cracky or anything like that. And it doesn't turn the frogs gay. So buy 2 Old Crow soap.
Right.
Yeah.
No gay frogs.
No gay frogs.
That's what you need to do. Is you need to
no frogs were turned gay by the using of this. Why am I even saying this? I don't know why I'm saying this.
You need to have the straight frog scent. That's what you need to come up with.
Oh man, you start off with a gay frog, rub him down with that 2 Old Crow soap, and he's straight again.
Okay, stop. Jeez.
Oh man, there's gonna be people trying it on their kids.
Oh,
my kid went to college 1 year. He came back gay. Just rub him down with that sharp dressed man.
The new scent, straight frog.
Just call it atrazine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and I mean, I enjoy. I'm into trades, like what you were saying, William, and I enjoy building stuff and putting stuff kind of where it should be. I mean, whenever I get a slow minute, I'm going to finish the stinking greenhouse. And my greenhouse, we're building it all out of old windows that I bought for $10 a piece. So I think all the windows and the whole thing cost me like $340 or something. And it's literally, if you walk out the garage door, you're 25 feet from the back door of the house. So that's something. And I mean, I park the chicken coops on one side and then the greenhouse is on the other side. So I'm parking in between those every day when I come home. So it's right there. I have to walk by the darn thing to get inside.
Which is proper zoning, which is why it's like the most efficient way, or it's called the energy transaction. It's the most efficient energy transaction, which is why tradesmen, other than like painters, because they're too high to understand, but like tradesmen, they're gonna just run away with this once they discover permaculture, and once they're taught permaculture by somebody who's not, you know, a marchie. Like if it's a like you don't have to have a lisp to, you know, teach regenerative agriculture or anything like that, or permaculture. And that's just who they need to learn from, or who they are seeking to learn from, that they don't necessarily have access to a lot of the times on YouTube, because that's not what's promoted. But yeah, as soon as tradesmen like discover permaculture, this stuff is going to take off. And because it's just what you naturally do at work every day is the most efficient, typically the most efficient way of doing things.
Yeah.
It makes sense when it comes to agriculture.
Right.
And that's it. Yeah, they're going to take off.
And especially the tradesmen that are business owners, because you're bidding a job for X amount, and you're getting paid X amount, whether it takes you 1 hour, if it takes you 15 hours. So you really want it to be as efficient as you can. I mean, we're doing some stuff right now, and I figured out the most efficient way to do it. And it's still slow, but that's the most efficient way to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah. And like 90% of the consultations I do are from people coming from the tech industry who have never, like, building the simple structures that you need for a homestead. They have to first learn how to swing a hammer before they can even get to the point of homesteading, because they're coming from the tech industry. And like, I think COVID did a big number on them, and as well as AI, and they realized, like, okay, I need to start growing my own food right now. Whereas like the tradesmen, a lot of them already know how to hunt. So a lot of them are going to be like leaning on that if, you know, things are going to go sour and stuff. But yeah, most of the people that I do consultations for are coming from the tech industry, and they're kind of limited on some of the basic skills that you need, which is, I don't mean to discourage them. I'm very glad that they're getting into homesteading and permaculture and agriculture and stuff like that. It's just, we need to somehow tap into the tradesman group.
We need to do a basic carpentry class up here.
You ain't lying, man. You got to see some of these chicken tractors.
Just a basic carpentry class on how to build a chicken coop. You can do that in a one-day class and whip it out and show people.
If
I've
somebody
never had a carpentry class, and I built a chicken coop.
Yeah, you did. If somebody were to do a flat pack chicken tractor, something that they could be shipped to them, that's going to be solid. Like, I can't stand the man, but he did have one good design, and that's the Justin Rhodes chickshaw. That chickshaw. If somebody were to if you need the plans, let me know. If somebody were to take that chickshaw and they would make a flat pack version of it, that's a chicken tractor that works in almost any terrain. It's like a rickshaw little design, and it works in every terrain. Like, it works here in flatlands of Texas just as well as it works in my parents' property up in the mountains of North Carolina. And
I even saw a video that he did where he took that design and made a narrow one, and it fit inside of his garden beds. And when he would shut them down, you know, like when he wasn't growing in the off season, he would move that thing from bed to bed to bed and let the chickens fertilize all of his, you know, raised beds. I thought that's
farm managers moved it from bed to bed.
Do what?
You mean his farm managers moved it from bed to bed?
Yeah. But it's still a good idea. I mean, it's, you know, he just modified that thing and made it a little bit more narrow and made it the size of his raised beds. And I was like, that's a pretty good idea.
One thing that would work even better as far as manure directly into the garden would be if somebody designed a rabbit tractor version of that, something that they could just put right above their raised bed. Rabbits poop directly onto it.
I have one.
Yeah, there you go. And
it doesn't roll, but it's, I mean, it would fit. It fits in it'll fit on my raised beds. Yeah.
Rabbits are perfect cold compost, like rabbit manure. The downside of using chicken manure is that it's very, very hot, and it's very high in anaerobic bacteria, which will make sense during the composting class. But the anaerobic bacteria is the opposite of what we want to achieve in our soils. Like, you can get away with it to an extent, but depending on how long, like, you can leave your rabbits there for a long time and you're not going to burn anything.
Right.
If you leave your chickens there for too long, then there's a chance that you start burning stuff that next spring, because you need enough carbon to offset that super high nitrogen of the chicken manure.
Heck, you can take the chick or the rabbit tractor and just put like 20-inch bike tires on it,
Yeah, you could.
and then it would raise it up high enough to be above the raised bed, and then you could pull it right on down the road. You know, let them sit there for a week on top of there, and then pull them over the next week. I mean, that's simple stuff you could do.
And you wouldn't even have to wait till it went until your garden went dormant that year. You can have chicken or you can have rabbit manure fall directly onto your green plants and have no issue at all. And you can feed the garden or feed the rabbits from the garden that they're fertilizing. Just put any weeds that you pull can go directly to your rabbits, except for nightshades.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go pull all kinds of weeds out of my garden and feed them to my rabbits because, oh my gosh, this year got taken over by weeds.
Oh, did it?
Hey, if we stayed on here long enough, we could solve all the world's problems.
That's right.
We just need to get people to follow the plan.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
William, shift gears on us, because you were talking about how compost would essentially solve everything on your farm, and I've seen a lot of that. I mean, I'm not making compost right this minute just because I've been so busy with work. But when we were making it, I mean, we were putting it on the trees. Everything was going gangbusters down there in the food forest. And this is not compost, but the whole permaculture aspect. Like you saw the area that we cleared out, and we hadn't had it planted yet. But that fall and winter, I was rolling hay out in it and letting the animals run through. We're still doing a bunch of that, but it's amazing to see where that round bale set. And I mean, there's just, a 20 or 30 foot diameter spot that just, I mean, gangbuster grass growing right there. It's just like, holy cow, there's no chemicals, anything on it. It was like, I set a bale of hay and let the animals eat there and pee and poop on it. And it went gangbusters for me.
Absolutely. And whenever it comes to composting, you are actually making compost, Jason. There's a bunch of different methods of making compost. What we're going to be teaching at the KSL festival is a hot composting method, but like it could be as simple as this as well. Properly rotating and grazing your animals. That's composting. They go through, they chomp everything down, they eat everything that they want to eat, they stomp everything else down, and then they poop on top of it. Anytime nitrogen comes in contact with carbon, you're composting. If I put a pile of sawdust on the ground and I pee on it, that's composting. You have cardboard laid down with wood chips on top. That's composting. That's slowly breaking down. That's a very slow release type of composting, but you're still composting. You have animals going through your pastures and pooping on the pasture. That's composting. Chop and drop is another form of composting. Anytime you have Shelly, you have the comfrey. One way you could easily be composting around your trees is by chopping the green tops off that comfrey and then just laying it around the base of your tree. That's composting. Like literally all of the problems on your farm can be fixed just through composting. And not all the composting methods have to be as intensive as doing a hot composting method. The benefit of the hot composting method is that you don't have to have like the cleanest materials. So like, for example, if instead of comfrey, you had maybe sorghum growing and you chopped the seed heads off of the sorghum and then you laid that around your tree. Well, next spring, you're going to start having sorghum grow up around your tree, which is going to be another weed that you have to clear from around your tree. So instead, with something like that, you could put it into a hot composting system, which is going to do three things. It's going to completely eliminate all weed seeds. It's going to kill all pathogen bacteria, and it'll eventually kill all anaerobic bacteria as well. All pathogens are bacteria are all anaerobic. If you keep an aerobic environment, you can't have any of the diseases. You can't have any of the pests. You can't have any of like your funguses, your blights, your molds, anything like that, because it's all going to be outcompeted by aerobic bacteria. If I were to take a leaf from a fruit tree that's been sprayed with compost tea, one application of compost tea properly made at the right timing, and I were to look at it underneath the microscope, 70% of the surface of that leaf I can't actually see because it's covered in a network of bacteria and fungi that acts almost as like an armor against let's say you have a grasshopper invasion. They can't get to the surface of the leaf. Let's say I have like the squash bug infestation. They can't get to the surface of the leaf. In fact, their larvae can't even hatch because they're going to be food for my nematodes or my worms. It all depends on how big they are and which predator I basically need to invite. But once you hit the term coined by Dr. Elaine Ingham, the full, complete, biocomplete soil food web, once I get to that point, I know I have a complete ecosystem within my soil that will take care of, that'll bring everything into balance, and it'll completely take care of any pests, weed seeds, anything like that. A lot of weeds only grow because there isn't enough fungi in the soil. A lot of us have like bacteria in the soil, and a lot of us focus only on bacteria. But if you raise those fungi levels, you're going to make it inhabitable to your weeds, to your thorny varieties, to your thistles, stuff like that. Like literally, like bring up a problem. Pink eye, that can be fixed with compost. You have sick soil. You have sick soil. Like any of your animal health issues, all that can be solved by fixing your soil. Once your animals start eating better fodder, better feed, have better grazing pastures and stuff like that, you're gonna be squared away. You can drought proof your property just by like decompacting any compaction layers and then applying compost extracts, which are just basically soil drenches from compost. You realistically, like both of your guys' properties, you can make one high quality, 1 cubic yard of compost, very high quality, and it could easily fertilize your entire property for the whole year. You can make one good compost pile once a year and fertilize your entire property, because the least efficient way to actually use your compost is using it as a planting medium. The most efficient way is to make compost teas and extracts, where I basically, like a compost extract, I basically take like a handful of compost and I throw it in the 400 micron mesh bag and I dunk it in a bucket of water. And I might repeat that process 2 or 3 times. I dunk that in a 5-gallon bucket of water, massage the organisms off. I'm basically just stripping the organisms off. And then I'm using that. I can dilute that up to 20 times and use that as a soil drench or a foliage spray or whatever. And then the stuff that I use to strip off, like the compost that I use to strip off the organisms, I can throw back in my compost pile and re-inoculate it and keep on going. And I can do that for about 6 months before I start having declining effects on my compost. So not declining effects, but it becomes less effective because you're kind of running out of food.
See, that's awesome. The two bane of my existence right now at my place is the neighbors. I've got about 4 acres of the neighbor's property that he's letting me graze on is a stinking broom sage. Trying to get rid of that stuff. And then there's some kind of mint that, and I forgot, it's in the mint family. The animals will not touch it. And it's, I mean, I
it's Perilla.
Yeah, I think it's a Perilla mint. And that stuff, I went in there and weed eated it before and everything, and it's just...
Yeah, my pigs won't eat it. The chickens won't eat it. The sheep won't eat it. They don't want anything to do with it. I have big bushes of it everywhere.
Those are indicators of compaction. That means so if you pull those plants up by the root, you'll notice that there's a long taproot in there. Yep. So if you can decompact the soil, like plants can penetrate up to, like 300 PSI. Anything past that, then they can't penetrate past that. And that's the limit of their roots. If you can either like decompact it with a yeoman's plow or a broad fork or something like that, past that compaction layer, and then introduce the microbes past that, instead of building soil up, you can start building soil down. There's no lower limit to how much soil you have. And then once you have like decompacted soil past that compaction layer, there's like, you have super resilience after that. Because you just get to a point where your roots start finding water. Grass roots should not be this long. They should not be 1 inch or 2 long. They should be as long as your soil is deep. And I mean soil meaning like actual soil, not compacted dirt.
Yeah, red clay, like what we've got.
Well, I've got red clay too, but I've got soil as well. And the organisms will fix all of that. They'll go through a process called flocculation, or they'll start flocculating your clays, so here's how it all kind of works. Like your tree, let's say you have a fruit tree, it sends down sugars into the soil called exudates, and they have a grocery list with that sugar. And in exchange for like your microbes and fungi to get that sugar, they have to go get that grocery list. So they attach themselves to the inorganic materials in our soil. So our sands, our silts, our clays, they attach themselves to that, and they produce acids that will break down those inorganic materials. Now, once they've gotten the organic or inorganic materials that the plant needs, they can't make a direct exchange between that bacteria or that fungi and that tree. So that's when you have to bring in your predator microbes, like your microarthropods, your protozoa, your nematodes, stuff like that. Your flagellates, they come in, they eat the bacteria, they eat the fungi, and then whatever they poop out fertilizes that tree. But those little glue spots where your bacteria and your fungi glue themselves to the inorganic material, those are called aggregates. So if you ever looked at like worm castings, that nice crumb structure, that's bacteria growing and like gluing themselves together. Now, granted, like one little crumb is thousands of bacteria, but like it'll fix clay soil. It'll decompact clay soil. It will bring together and clump up sandy soil and silty soil, and you'll eventually create perfect crumb structure in your soil just by introducing the proper organisms. That's why I cringe every time somebody says, "Oh, I'm adding lime to the soil," or "Oh, I'm adding gypsum to the soil," or anything like that. Those are ingredients for concrete, which is the exact opposite of what you want in your soil.
Yeah. And see, that's where I was at, because I was watching Greg Judy, and he was like, "We get rid of the broom sage." He said, "We'll lime everything." And I kind of asked you about that, and you're like, "I don't know if I do that or not." So I just held off on doing any of the lime.
I thought you just used lime for getting rid of dead bodies.
Well, the pigs. And,
well, use lime if you want to eventually eat those pigs.
But yeah, so I've held off. I mean, I've been letting the animals. I was hoping, and I'd read some other stuff, because I don't want to spray chemicals on it. Anything, like Roundup or 2,4-D, anything like that. But I was reading on some of them there that said let the animals graze it, and they said that they will eat it when the broom sage, when it's real tender and real small. And they're like, if you keep clipping it, you can finally get rid of it. So I'm going to kind of try to clip it down with the bush hog a little bit and see what I can do with that.
And that's something you can do to kind of like say you just don't want to be bothered with compost, which is fine because you can still compost in place. One thing you can kind of do is speed up the progression of things. So that is a pioneer species. The perillamate and the broom sage, those are both pioneer species because they grow in environments that most other things can't thrive in. So all they're doing is preparing the soil for the next succession of plants. They have those long, deep tap roots. If you can chop them off at the base, let that tap root decompose in the soil, all it's doing is feeding the organisms and creating like little nutrient pathways for the next succession to come in. So it's a war of attrition. Or you can just let it be, and it'll eventually, past human lifetimes, it'll eventually turn into like an old growth forest that'll eventually turn into meadowland. But yeah, that's way past like human lifespans and stuff like that. So you can speed things up by doing constant chop and drop, like properly timed chop and drop. So you want to do chop and drop typically when your precipitation is higher than your evaporation. So don't do chop and drop during your drought season, because then you're just going to bake the surface of that soil, create compaction. So like right before a rain event would be probably the ideal time to do chop and drop in most cases.
Yeah. And you know how Greg Judy's pastures look when he goes out there and, he spreads everything apart and there's all this organic matter. And it's like you got to spread a foot of organic matter before you see any kind of soil. Most of that field with all that broom sage is like that. I mean, there's just, litter all over the ground. There's very few spots where it's just bare ground. And pretty much where it's bare ground is where I've got a gate where I bring them through every day, where they walk on that part all the time.
That's awesome.
But other than that, it looks great if I can just get rid of that stupid broom sage. So I guess I'm just going to try clipping it all the time now.
And I will give, like, to defend Greg Judy a little bit, a while back, he had a very bad experience with a permaculture consultant who came out there and gave him very improper design. He basically put swales in his pasture.
I saw that video.
And didn't leave any access points. So, like, that's why access is such a high priority on your like permaculture design. like if you follow the permaculture design manual, it'll say water is the number one thing you should worry about first, and then access. I say it's like one and the same, access and water, because sometimes in like more like where you guys live in the hill country and stuff, like water can dictate access. So you can, let's say you're worried about water and you see a prime location for a pond and it also spans a ravine. Well, you now have access to the other side of that ravine because you dug a pond there and built a dam. You can drive up on top of that dam. Your swales as well, they could be access points for harvesting food and stuff like that. So it's kind of one and the same, but those are typically the first two things that you should pay attention to on your property is access and water. Also, keep in mind that water means nothing if you can't access it. So that's why access is a high on the priority list as well. But food, producing food is kind of lower on that list because, okay, for example, a lot of the homesteads that I do consultations for, they kind of do the list backwards. They buy the homestead and then they import a bunch of animals because they have land now and they feel like they need to be farmers. You did everything backwards. You should have worried about your water, your access, your soil, stuff, your structures, stuff like that. Like there's a lot of people who live on a piece of property in a camper and their animals have better living conditions than they do because they thought that they were going to bring in the animals. And then once they got comfortable with farming, then they were going to build a house, not realizing that the animals and the garden and all that type of stuff takes too much time for you to build a house typically at the same doggone time. And then they end up quitting and then they end up selling their place and then they go right back to suburbia or urban environments and doing their previous day job. That like improper design is the number one reason people quit homesteading. Like it doesn't need to be that difficult. Or they have, okay, here's an example. There was a consultation in West Texas. I won't give out their name, but he played football for the NFL, which was almost worse than consulting for a doctor because he thought he knew everything. Had 120 acres, not a single piece of fence on that property. Ended up buying, I gave him an order of operations, told him what to do, when to do it. He ignored all of it, ended up buying 20 head of cattle, which then became the neighbor's cattle because he didn't have a single piece of fence on that property.
Wow.
But he wanted to hurry up and become a farmer. And now I know a lot of people like hurry up and introduce the animals because they're worried about that tax exemption process. Not once have I ever seen, and I'll say it out loud. I have never seen somebody come out and audit that piece of property to make sure that you had the animals that you said you had. And also, it's not unreasonable to claim the year of rest, especially if it's already been in production beforehand, which a lot of these pieces of property have been in production beforehand.
Right.
So it's you're better off. It hurts me to say it, but you're almost better off paying those taxes than to speed through things and get animals before you're ready or put in systems before you're ready.
Oh yeah, I'm a big proponent on, as far as the access part, getting that perimeter fence put up. Not just for keeping the animals in, but keeping other people from coming on your property.
Yeah.
Before, I'm close to the high school here, the local high school. And I mean, before I got all the sections done on my perimeter fence, I came out 3 times and the cross country kids were using my property to cut across to get better time on their cross country thing.
That's funny.
But the third time I caught him, I actually got kicked out of the school because I ran him back down to the school and had words with the principal. And he was like, "You don't need to come back in this school anymore the way you're talking." And I was like, "Keep your kids off my property." But after the perimeter fence is up with barbed wire on top, the kids don't run through here anymore.
I bet they don't. I bet they do it once and then the word gets around that he's got barbed wire up.
Yeah, that and then the livestock guard dogs will eat their too.
Yep. Yeah. And that I think that's one benefit of having, like, some people have property where it's not feasible to put up like let's say you have over 15 acres or something like that. That's a lot of money to go into fencing, putting up a perimeter fence. There are some temporary solutions that you can follow. But the most important thing to have fenced in, I think, is your livestock guardian dog.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to be roaming. They're not going to be doing their job, and it's going to be entirely ineffective if you don't have that fenced in somehow, whether it be with whatever animals they're protecting, or within, let's say you have it protecting your home, maybe doing like a suburban style chain link fence around your home just to keep your livestock guardian dog in, or your home defense dog in, or something like that. You got to direct their efforts, which applies to all animals. They're only so effective if you don't direct their efforts. Like free range chickens, if chickens have like 10 capabilities, you chop off 7 of them by either keeping them in complete confinement or by letting them free range, because you're not directing their efforts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We've got one lone chicken that she gets out every time I put her back in, and she just does whatever she wants to. And I'm like, you're going to get down by the dogs, and one of those dogs is going to get you one day. So,
everybody has that chicken.
Oh yeah.
Everybody.
I forgot her name. Lincoln named her, and I forgot what he called her, but she just kind of does what she wants to, and I'm like, whatever.
Oh man.
But well, William, yeah, and as far as the compost class, this is going to be a hands-on. We're gonna have a pile. William's going to build a pile, show you how to start your own compost pile. You can take this back to your house pretty much and start a compost pile. Sunday or whenever you get home, you can start a compost pile. Know how to do it, know how to build it, and then you're going to see some examples of what it should look like, after your first flip or your second flip on it, and then what it's going to look like finished. And we'll have an ingredient list for you too, stuff this is what we're putting in here, and you can use this, and maybe, if you don't have this, we can throw something else in there to take the place of that. So that's cool that it's going to be a hands-on thing, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. Like me and Dad taught one at that last festival, that Homesteaders United Jamboree, and it was a hit. It was the first time I've ever seen like a hands-on compost class before, and it was a big favorite by a lot of the people. And I think a lot of people get intimidated by making compost, and it's super simple. It does not have to be complicated. And while I'm there, like if you guys have any compost related questions, bring them to me. Even before we get there, if you want to, let me know about it. But if you need, if you have pictures of your compost, I can usually tell you what's going on with your compost through pictures. But yeah, it's not difficult. Just make a few piles. Some of them are going to fail. Some of them are going to be successful. But yeah, this class should give you a good answer on like how big your compost pile needs to be, some of the ingredients you can use, what your first or second flip should look like, and then what the finished products will look like as well. And also what's really important is what the finished product should look like, feel like, and smell like, because that's all 3 of those factors are very important.
William, tell everybody where they can find you.
The Permaculture Consultant. If you look up The Permaculture Consultant, you'll find me on, I think, Instagram, TikTok, mostly YouTube. That's where I do most of my stuff. But also if you need to email me, it's thepermacultureconsultant@gmail.com.
Shelly, run over a couple of the festival highlights real quick.
So we have several speakers coming in. We've got Ingrid Prepper. He's going to be coming in from New York. We've talked a little bit about Flomaton Famous. He's going to be coming in and teaching tree grafting. We've got Dawn Gorham is going to come in and talk about the Homestead cow and raw milk. I'm really excited about that. Who else do we have? We've got what?
Callie Blackwell.
Callie Blackwell is coming, and she's going to be talking about, getting healthy. Is basically it, not being dependent on chemicals and getting chemicals out of your body, and your cleaning stuff and just all of that kind of thing. If you haven't read her book, it's called 1 in 7 billion, and you need to read her book. Her story, her and her son's story, is just absolutely amazing.
You know how many of my friends she's healed?
Really?
Yeah. Like personal people that I know that she is healed. Like she is an awesome, fantastic woman.
She's amazing. I met her at Midwest Preparedness Project last spring when Randy and I went out there last May, and not only she knows her stuff, and she advocates for people. She is just one. She has like the sweetest spirit of anybody. Mm-hmm. Like literally, she's just a genuinely good person. I really like her.
Yeah.
Y'all need to come out and talk to her and hear her story. And she's going to have a booth set up. You'll be able to sit down and have a conversation with her. She's just amazing. Who else? We're going to have Bill Stoker from Stoker-Matic. He's going to be talking about homestead security. We're going to have Sean Terrio. He's going to be talking about unplugging from the matrix.
Jeff Smith, Everyday Prepper, will be there.
Oh, I love Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith has supported our festival from the very beginning, and he is a wealth of information. Absolutely. Like, he has so much good information. And he's going to have a booth set up, and he has really cool tools that he sells at his booth and just all kinds of little stuff. But if you like to barter, Jeff Smith loves to barter. Bring some stuff to barter with. It's one of his favorite things to do.
Local Prepper will be there too, doing Preparedness 101 for everybody.
Yep. I'm drawing a blank. I don't. So I have moved my desk from one area of the house to another area of the house because, this. I'm always pointing in the wrong direction. This turd over here didn't like my other setup, so I don't have my notebook.
It's fine.
It's in the other room. It's like I haven't found it yet because I've been moving stuff around.
We covered most of it. Guys, the website is KentuckySustainableLiving.com. Use the code email25. You can get your tickets for $25 right now. They're probably going to go up the 1st of October to $35. So grab those now. Also, Saturday night, we're having a charity dinner for Caleb House. So if you want to help support Caleb House and get to sit down and have dinner with all our speakers and everybody, you're going to get some one-on-one time to talk to these people, and you're getting to support Caleb House. It's a win-win. You can get tickets for that for Saturday night. It's going to be a prime rib dinner. We're going to have some good bourbon and maybe some beer. If y'all want beer, we might get some beer, but it's going to be a good time to sit down.
We'll make sure that William answers all of your compost questions.
Or any permaculture questions.
Or any permaculture questions.
Hey, if you support Caleb House, I'll answer any question you want to know. It doesn't even have to be permaculture related. If you want to know the secrets of the universe, I'll figure them out for you.
But yeah, that dinner is Saturday night, and you can get tickets on the website. I want to pack the house with people and raise as much money as we can for Caleb House.
Yeah.
And we're excited about that. But that's about all I've got for the night. William, thank you very much for coming on here. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to October.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I mean, every time talking to you guys, it's a pleasure for sure. Yeah. I can't wait till KSL. All the conspiracy talks we're gonna have and all that. Oh,
for real.
Oh man.
Like all the stuff that's happening in the world right now, for real, we're gonna have some conversations.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Thank you guys so much.
All right, and we will see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.